This podcast is produced by Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency. The Collective Us, an NMCAA podcast, focuses on inspiring you through stories of those we've helped through our programming or by linking local resources to community members in need. Join us as we learn about the programs offered through NMCAA and how we touch people's lives every day. Welcome to the Collective Us, an NMCAA podcast. If you've listened to us before, welcome back. If not, thanks for joining us. I'm Erica Austin and here today with my co-host, Ryan Buck.
Hello, Erica. And again, thank you for listening. And if it is the first time, thank you for joining. Today is a little bit different. Today, we're in the studio. Just the two of us and our microphones.
Yes, it's a bit strange not having guests sit across from us today, but it's a special edition of the podcast. Ryan, can you believe we are approaching our 1 year of doing this podcast together?
I can. I know that may be a trick question, but I can because every moment doing the show has been really cool and special for me. And I've tried to be in all those moments, but we've covered a lot of ground in a year.
We certainly have. We've got, so many different departments and so many different topics that we've covered. It's been an incredible journey, and getting to learn about all the different facets of NMCAA has been an amazing thing as well.
Well, can we talk about how this all got started?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about how we connected.
Well, I pursued you as a guest.
That's right.
NMCAA.
Yes.
As a guest to be on another podcast. And the talk of podcasting, I think, became interesting to you.
Yes, me and some of our staff, I think we had kind of tossed around the idea. And yeah, I think...
An innovative idea, if I may say.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty fantastic idea as well.
As a tool to, connect an organization internally, to share with an external audience what you do, all the things that you do.
Absolutely. Once you had reached out, we took a listen to your other podcast. Go ahead and plug it now.
Oh, The Pursuit Of, which is a show that also features you as a guest.
Yes.
NMCAA. So
yes.
That is a wonderful episode.
Yes, and people doing good in the community. So shout out to that.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
That is really nice.
And so once we connected, we kind of started talking about podcasting and just how does this even work? So it was a fun sit down of like, hey, here's some ideas for content. What do you think? And I think that we've got something pretty cool going on.
Well, you're very organized. And when you said, how does it work? I don't remember what our response was, but I feel like there are a lot of people together at NMCAA, that it wasn't an easy idea to just do this. It wasn't as easy as that, but you got a lot of support and buy-in, which I think is kind of cool as well.
Absolutely. Our leadership has been really receptive to this idea and they've definitely jumped on board. So thank you to them for having the faith in me and you too, trusting us with the brand and allowing us to tell the stories of all the clients and staff and volunteers and community partners and everybody involved. It's really been an honor to take part of that.
Yeah.
So.
And on that note, we're taking a walk down memory lane to revisit some of the most impactful stories that we've had on the show thus far and really unique people. We're going to be featuring community partners, volunteers, employees, and clients, and really wonderful stories of real impact that NMCAA and their team do in our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to jump in with one of my topics that's near and dear to my heart, just because, I've mentioned so many times on here, I've got so many young kids. And so I want to jump right into child and family development. The people with child and family development do such a great job with their early Head Start home-based and center-based Head Start in general, the 3 and 4-year-olds, and then also the Great Start to Readiness program. They're all wonderful programs.
And it's nice to have a lot of different perspectives on these as well. We've had a lot of passion on this podcast with our guests, and it's not a foregone conclusion, but I think there's been some really passionate guests talking about this particular subject. And we've got Jen Rubinas, who is, I think, a superstar on the show.
Yes.
We have a clip from episode 4, and you'll hear us talking with Jen. She's a Head Start GSRP teacher about how the children in her class rallied around another student who needed a little extra support.
And this year we had a little girl who may not have a lot of language, very nonverbal. She didn't speak a lot. And to watch the other children in our room become like her advocate, her voice in the classroom, it was pretty amazing. So to see each kid individually, like I said in the beginning, to watch these children take on more of that leadership role of how they can help support these children only will give them tools when they're older in life to really see each person and help support them.
As you can hear there.
Wow.
Yeah, so much emotion. Jen's very passionate about her job and her students. All of our teachers, and not just our teachers at NMCAA, all teachers deserve so much praise as they're really helping mold these little individuals into community members. And I like to say we're raising adults, not children. I say that to my husband all the time, right? Like, they're not just little children, they're people. And gosh, it's such a heartstring
I remember
clip.
that one. That puts me back in that place. And I do remember Jen, her passion. And it's a story that's, I don't know how easily it is to tether to a story where you don't know the language, you're nonverbal, you're not able to speak for whatever reason, and how just any kind of tether helps. But to see children raising each other up in that way and being encouraged by those teachers and leaders in those departments. And it's child and family development too. So the whole family is cared for, which is, I think, miraculous.
Yeah, I think that's one of the really cool things about NMCAA is it seems like that's kind of a thread throughout, right? Is we're helping and surrounding the family. It's not just the one individual, specifically in terms of the child and family development. And I think also just listening back to that clip now, and that was like episode 4.
Yeah.
I still just got chills listening to it again because I was just like, oh, such a heartwarming moment.
Yeah, it was early. And again, you see passion comes in different forms.
Yeah.
And throughout a lot of our episodes, we're here in the room and we see it. And I hope you can't feel it, but that is somebody that I'm glad is teaching and supporting our community. I really am.
So I wanted to touch on, we talked a little bit about the child being nonverbal. And I also want to reference our most recent episode, which was episode 24. We had Cara Gregory and Cindy Lockey on talking about literacy. It was such a great episode. And gosh, it was one of my favorites, I think, to be honest. Just so good. Great conversation. And they talked a lot about that serve and return of the having conversation, right? And ever since then, I've still been like, I think I mentioned in that episode, talking with my babies while I'm changing their diaper. I'm like thinking about that all the time now, like being very, what's the word?
Conscious.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is the word I'm looking for? Being very conscious of like making that connection as I'm talking with them. And
because you're their first teacher.
Right. Yes.
Which comes up a lot too.
Yes, it does come up a lot too. Parents as a child's first teacher, whether you're just talking with them or playing with them. We talked a lot about play on that episode, so episode 24 as well. And
it helps to be intentional about some of the things you're doing as a parent, because as a new parent or a seasoned parent, I don't think it's ever easy or routine, but to have some resources and intention with how you're handling these activities, there's science behind how this works. Plus, it's just good for both parties.
Yeah. And I mean, I've heard this quote before. I don't know if it's the exact quote, but like, you don't realize when you're a child that you're also watching your parents grow older too, right? They're also growing and they're learning how to be a parent at the same time that you're learning all the things you're learning. And that's kind of also the wrap around the family thing. Like, these parents don't always necessarily know the right thing to do with child development, right? And so having the NMCAA staff be able to wrap around that family and teach the parent how to be better as a parent or as their child's first teacher is really crucial too.
And with no judgment, with no preconceived notions of the situation, and openness and an honesty on the part of NMCAA and saying we're here as a resource. We all struggle with these things, or you may not be struggling, you just want to do better or want to learn something new. That's another good reason to tune in as well.
Absolutely.
And we've got more in-depth conversations regarding child and family development on a couple other episodes. Episode 15, on this note, parents as teachers, is a great one. Episode 22, preschool recruitment, talking about, how to get really ready for the journey ahead.
Yeah. And I also want to shout out one other episode. Episode 16 is the Child Caring Now initiative. We talk a lot about just child caring, whether you're the parent or you're taking them to daycare or other resources. That's also a really great episode. I really enjoyed that one. Speaking of preschool recruitment,
which we did,
I just want to shout out also preschool recruitment is currently ramping up. If you have a little one who's 3 or 4 years of age, please go check out nmcaa.net to fill out the interest form to see about getting started on the process to get them enrolled to one of our Head Start programs, Head Start or GSRP.
Get excited.
Yeah.
Well, we have another topic to sashay into, if we may, and I definitely am passionate about this one. well, not just because of the name of the gentleman in our clip and the goodness behind his efforts, but we want to move into homeless prevention. We've mentioned the stigma around homelessness and talked about the fact that many of our community members are only 1 or 2 moments away from being homeless. And it doesn't really take that much, and you need a community around you to help.
Yeah, absolutely. So this next clip is from episode 7. Our community partner, Ryan Hannon from Goodwill, Northern Michigan, is talking about the importance of partnership with NMCAA and others in the community.
Homelessness is a complex issue. It takes a multifaceted approach.
Yeah.
We literally have to work together. Otherwise, homelessness is going to get way worse. More people are going to die. Like, this is life-saving work, and it's critical to it. And all of our years learning about best practices and going to conferences and reading, for years it talks about working together. But really, like, people can say it all the time, but what does it really look like on the ground? And that's what we're talking about here. And I remember when we had our first housing program matching meeting as a coalition. I don't know if I remember.
It was matchmaking? It wasn't speed dating, was it?
No, what it is
serious.
We look at, to end homelessness, you have to know who's out there. You have to know the scope of the problem. So we do that, and then we talk about knowing our assets as well, right? So we prioritize the housing programs and the support that come in. Basically, it's like finding the most person likely to die next on the street and working together to get them into housing. But our first meeting, I said, we need to take our name tags off, put them in the bucket in the middle of the table here, and we need to work together, right? And that was many years ago, and that kind of systems change that we needed to do started way back then. And it was a little bumpy along the way, but now here we are. It's just like the people kept saying, you have to work together, and how much more beautiful it is.
Take your name tags off is my favorite takeaway.
Yeah.
Ryan Hannon. I call him the best, Ryan. His intensity and passion comes across. He says people will die. And I remember he really brought that to bear. And it's really not about numbers or how many, it's just life-saving work. So that's a place to start from when you look at homelessness.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you say right at the end of that clip, take your name tags off is your favorite takeaway.
Yeah.
It's such an impactful thing, that story of taking those name tags off and working together as partners of the coalition. And I don't know how many different partners there are in that Northwest Michigan Coalition to End Homelessness, but gosh, if they didn't work together, could you imagine how much worse it could be?
And that's, again, a theme with NMCAA throughout, and not just in this area, is the partnerships that it takes. And how fortunate it is in a way that at times we're in a smaller community, issues can come to light a little bit more, but we have ways to connect with each other that maybe in bigger cities, even with more resources, they wouldn't be able to get through some of that red tape.
Yeah. I think one interesting thing in that particular episode, they talk about, Sarah Hughes is also on that episode. She's our director of our homeless prevention programs. They also talk about the caseworkers working with those clients who they're trying to get housed, and the connection that they have with the landlords, and being that third party to help assist those things, right? And transitioning back into quote unquote society. I mean, they're never left, but they're getting back into that
transition. It's a full circle. It's not just providing the home. There's more to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those people with the passion, I'm fascinated by that. The minutia of trying to make everybody happy and get all parties satisfied, because there has to be many stakeholders in supporting these members of our community. And again, NMCAA is that tether that keeps all the pieces together and makes it work the way it needs to.
Yeah, it's a really amazing thing. And, you mentioned at the beginning of this, before we played the clip, we're only a couple of moments away from potentially being homeless. It's all about having that support system, right? And so some of these people just are the unfortunate ones that don't have those support systems. If you think about it, I'm lucky enough that I have my mom and dad. If anything ever happened to me, they would, scoop me up and let me live in their house.
Yeah.
So having your neighbors and your community members being able to step up and help out in ways that maybe you don't have support system, NMCAA is your support system. Yeah. Reach out to us.
And again, it comes up a lot on the show, and I marvel at it all the time, because I think it's a difference maker. When you call, when you connect, you are connecting with a person. You're connecting with another member of our community at NMCAA too, typically. So
if you are experiencing homelessness, or someone might be experiencing homelessness, you can contact NMCAA by calling 1-844-900-0000. 888-500-0500, or you can send us an email at homeless@nmcaa.net.
And more information can be found on an episode that I really particularly enjoy, episode 14, Homeless Awareness Month. More information on that.
So let's move from homelessness to homeownership.
Yes.
Homeownership used to be part of the American dream, right? I don't know if the same is true today. One thing does remain. Homeownership is difficult. Maintaining the home, whether it's mowing the lawn, fixing your faucet, or getting the roof repaired, there's all things that, come with homeownership. And
Very important. And especially in a community like ours, we're a Four Seasons destination. Location that has extremes in winter, extremes in summer. And we have an elderly community. We have a lot of folks who can be a little fragile in our community. So these types of things are important. And this next clip is from our episode featuring our Housing and Energy Efficiency Services, or HEES department, one of my favorite acronyms.
Yes.
This guest on episode 5 was one of our clients, Doug Birdsall, with an incredible story about getting his water restored after living for over a decade without it. This was a wonderful moment for us on the show, and I think to be a part of this was incredible. When asked about advice to give to others who may be feeling down about their own situation, Doug said this.
Like I said, it's a matter of me accepting the fact that you need help, accepting the fact that there are people out there that are willing to do it. You just have to find them. And like I said, there's so many organizations. Reach out to somebody in one of those organizations.
Yeah.
Get to know them and let them get to know you.
Yeah, Doug was such an interesting person and a great client who had a wonderful outlook on life despite the situation he was in. And he really believed in NMCAA and our Housing and Energy Efficiency Services Department. Again, I want to thank him so much for coming on and being on our show. He had a truly inspiring story.
He did. And we had another partner in the room with us as well who physically helped facilitate the work and do the work, which that's another part of this. So putting all those pieces together were amazing. And Doug was really candid about his situation, about what it's like to live without running water.
Yeah, I remember asking him what was the most difficult part and him saying hygiene. And
I think
was
everybody was, you're wondering, maybe you're trending in that direction. That's what it would be. And again, he was really candid about what it took in the ingenuity to live the way he was. But it was really nice to see him. And once he mentioned he had one of his own barriers, which was pride and wanting to reach out. But when he did, even in the room, you kind of started to see him lift a little bit.
Yeah. And, he talks so much in this episode, too, about his community, his support system. We just mentioned that with the last topic. He had neighbors, and he talked about his late significant other, also his late brother, who would check on him. And he talked so much about how they, supported him and helped him out. It was just an amazing point to also say, like, hey, I have community and I have neighbors who are also willing to be here.
Yeah. And I believe he had served.
That's right. He was
so
a veteran.
As a veteran, again, he's an important member of our community. We had partners like Craig from Bayside Plumbing, as we talked about, people there to do the work. And he was treated with decency. He was treated as a human being, which that was important for me to hear from him, that there was honor and dignity in the process and understanding as well.
Yeah. And I think the real meat of the housing and energy efficiency programs are the home repair and the weatherization. And I believe he mentioned in the episode that he actually took advantage of both of those things, reducing the cost of, utility bills and things like that. But then also, of course, making the safety issue of not having any water and repairing his home.
It wasn't just making water happen.
Yeah.
There was so many more things. And again, when he talked about what his life was like in the wintertime and how he did his laundry, and again, I kept thinking about weather. So even individuals who are housed can still have issues. You could have a boiler go out. I don't know how many people have that spare change to fix that right away. And again, just knowing that there is a lifeline of assistance to help can make the difference.
Absolutely. In terms of that, if you have an emergency home repair or are in need of weatherization, check out nmcaa.net and search for Housing and Energy Efficiency Services to start the pre-screen application today. Before moving into our next topic, I want to call out a milestone career achievement, as we like to do on this show. In April, we have one employee who is celebrating 10 years, Garner Kuntz. Thank you so much for all you do for NMCAA and the community.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Yes. And I just want to point out, so milestone career achievements on this show are 5, 10, 15 years or 20 plus. So if you happen to be an employee, at a 9-year mark, we see you and we'll shout you out next year.
Excellent. Well, you are seen.
Yes, we are.
Appreciate it.
Yes. I also want to thank you if you've had an opportunity to listen to just one episode or all of them. We truly appreciate it. This is a passion project for both Ryan and I, and it's a collective effort amongst our employees, our volunteers, clients, community partners, and anyone else who's had an opportunity to participate in this podcast. You truly are the action in community action. And, Ryan, I was thinking maybe we should call our listeners something fun.
I like that.
I think there's only one option. Do you think?
You were super creative. So, all right, go for it.
The Collective.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
great.
Done deal.
That speaks the sci-fi nerd in me. And I think there's some good in that because, again, all the people that are doing this work are what makes these stories happen.
Yes. And, I have to say, all of the guests that have been on and all of the leadership who, whenever I reach out about having a topic idea or, hey, I'd like to highlight this particular awareness month or something of that sort, everyone is so great at getting back to me. Like I said, it's a passion project for us because it's such a fun thing for us to do, but it really is the effort amongst all of our employees and those people who come onto the show and put in the time to talk with us, right?
And a few people have driven a distance and it's not been necessarily easy. We talked about weather. We've had to do this show through at least one winter and taking the time to come in here and maybe meet us for the first time.
Yes, that's
definitely
happened.
Me.
Yes, I've had quite a few of those as well.
And you as well. So the trust and the camaraderie, I think that it engenders has been really super fun.
Yeah, it has been super fun.
Well, we're going to move from housing and home repair inside the house, specifically to the kitchen. Food is fuel. It's a basic human need. At NMCAA, there are a few food programs, and one we have touched on several times, well-known nationwide. This is the big one, Meals on Wheels.
That's right. And while Meals on Wheels is known nationwide, Meals on Wheels of NMCAA is operated here locally in just 4 counties: Grand Traverse, Leelanau, Wexford, and Missaukee. This includes home-delivered meals as well as congregate luncheons.
In episode 2, we had a volunteer driver on the show, and she talked about not only the impact that she has on the clients, but also how she benefited from her interactions.
What would some of those benefits be?
Well, I actually look forward to my visits on Tuesdays every week because I love the people. I love to hear what's happening with them, but it feels so good to be able to help and to know that I'm having a very positive impact on these folks' lives. Just by putting the food back into the refrigerator for them, making sure that they're safe, making sure that they have what they need, that it's so rewarding.
It's so incredible how these feelings go both ways, right? Having the client receiving the help, but then the driver also becomes that person's family. If I remember Karen talking about how at one point she said that one of her clients asks about her grandson and she shows him, his picture. So cool how they get to know each other and they really become camaraderie.
Yeah, that was a big telling piece for me in hearing the stories of logistically how Meals on Wheels happens.
Yeah.
So you can hear about how the meals are prepared and made. So it's this huge enterprise. But my big takeaway from that clip is seeing her put food into somebody's freezer. That's the takeaway. You're in the kitchen, you're in the home, and you're going, this is for you. And how they look around and make sure that everything's okay. And there's a holistic caring of the person and of the family. Again, it comes across a lot on the show, and it's you're taking care of full circle. So it's not just a beeline to the freezer. It's let's see how you are.
Yeah. Do you need a chair moved or how long's that hole been in the floor?
Yes.
Those kinds of things, right?
Exactly.
I remember Lisa Robichek, our manager of Meals on Wheels, talking specifically about, I think, the chair thing. Do you need this chair moved? It looks like it might be, in your pathway. Those kinds of things that they're taking care of that whole family. Again, it's NMCAA is wrapping around not just that one individual, but also the family that's in that house.
And that's a fun one that showed NMCAA's adaptability because, a lot of COVID stories came
Yes.
up and how that's an essential service.
Yeah.
And if you think about that population who really needs that help, there's so many. But I think that one led to an innovation
Yes,
that
absolutely.
helped long term.
Yeah,
which
with
is
the
kind of neat.
freezer meals. Yeah, and then the deliveries also went from, I think, multiple times a week to once a week for the whole week, which is incredible. It's,
Right.
saving gas money, and we know inflation right now with the food costs and things like that. So it really changed how things worked. And I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you, Ryan. I think almost every single episode someone mentions COVID and the impact of the pandemic.
Really?
I believe so. It's incredible. I always am like keeping an eye out for that. It's really interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's far reaching and NMCAA is essential for so many people. It can't be stopped.
Yeah,
right. So
absolutely.
this is the kind of thing that pressures organization to be innovative, and all the people that I've talked to on this show, that passion fuels them. But I could see where there's a lot of strength. There's a lot of I like the challenge, because I think you maybe have to like a challenge to want to do this. And there was, I believe, a Meals on Wheels driver who turned into a guest.
Yes. I don't recall if that was on air when they told us that, but they've definitely told us that.
Yeah. That one sticks with me as well.
Yeah.
Because
it's incredible.
or people who start to volunteer through their experiences with NMCAA, and that's come up as well, which is super great.
We also have a couple of other food programs, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, or as we lovingly call in the office, TFAP.
That's another great acronym.
Yes.
It's fun to say.
And we also have the Commodity Supplemental Food Program, or CSFP. Those are more drive up to the location and pick up a box of food. We talk more in depth about those with a discussion on episode 10. And then we also have a couple other episodes.
Yeah, there's some neat details discussed about how some of the food is made. I know I got real nerdy about the early mornings and how there's a lot of care. Episode 23, I remember Senior Nutrition Month is a really great one that had some really great information as well.
Yes.
Nutrition doesn't have to be boring. I think it's pretty exciting and artful.
And we also just have to take a moment to mention that we are community partners with the Northwest Food Coalition. We had Christina Barkle on for episode number 13, talking about National Farmers Day and how that food coalition works and getting food into the hands of people who need it, cutting on that food insecurity.
And for more information on NMCAA's emergency food programs, go to nmcaa.net and look for food programs. And regarding the Northwest Food Coalition, don't forget to get your tickets for the Empty Bowls event coming up on April 28th. Check out northwestmifoodcoalition.org.
So let's move now from food to financials.
Oh boy, nothing happens without it.
That is
maybe
true.
that's not totally true, but it's important.
In episode 3, we talked with our financial management services team about programs and workshops offered through NMCAA. Our housing and budget coach, Allison, talked about the individualized approach to each client's needs.
Well, they start in our intake process, and I really always like to say that every customer is like a snowflake. They're all different with their own situations, and you get this small snapshot of where they are in their life. So taking that kind of empathy first mentality and running with it, we get people in who, after an appointment, they're like, so you're not going to tell me what to do with my budget? Like kind of a defensive way. And it's like, no, our job is to provide the resources and education that are available to you. We want to make sure you know your rights. You're not a victim of a scam, identity theft. We want to go through your budget with you and have that organic conversation like, oh, you're spending this much on your cell phone bill. Have you heard of the Affordable Connectivity Program? And just kind of like cherry pick those ways that they can save in their spending every month. It's really focused on the housing status and the expenses that surround it. So if someone comes to us with a financial barrier, we look at two things that you can do right away. You can either increase income or decrease expenses. And our job is to just help the customer see all of their options.
That is a favorite of mine. because it's one of the ones that I go back to personally a lot that I need the most help with. And that's the other sheer joy being able to do this show is I personally get to learn all this great stuff. And I've said this ad nauseum on the show, but if you'll allow me again, it's that customized, individualized approach that NMCAA brings that really impresses me every time.
Yes, Allison says it right there. She talks about, she doesn't tell them necessarily what they need to do with their budget, but she looks at it and tells them in which they can improve it. And it's all customized based on what their current budget looks like. Everybody's budget's different, right? And it's the same thing whether you're, going back to child and family development. Every child is different. Every senior is different. Their dietary needs are different. Everybody's home is different, right? Everybody's situation is different, but we're here to help in any way that we can. And if we can't help you, we have the resources to help link you to other resources.
Cherry picking the things that are going to work best for you. That's the kind of care that I personally like, especially in this regard, because this can be sensitive. And I get you need to just kind of shed some of that to have these open conversations. And again, some of the individuals here that we talk to, I can see myself being comfortable talking about this stuff because they just make you're seen as an individual.
Yeah.
You're not judged because, it can be sensitive. I guess.
Absolutely. I think I mentioned that, when I walked in to do my application for my son's GSRP stuff, we were like, oh, they need to know all of our financial stuff. And they're just trying to make sure that we are taken care of in all the different departments, checking off all those boxes, right? So taking care of the family.
There's a lot of boxes to check.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think one of the cool things about NMCAA's financial management services programs is that it really is helping empower the clients to be financially stable or self-sufficient versus like handing them money and saying, here's your assistance this month. We're going to pay off your whatever. In teaching them the ways in which they can do better in the future, we say it's a hand up, not a hand out. Right.
That's a great way of looking at that. And that goes back to homelessness prevention. It's that full circle care. It's not just that one thing. It's taking care of the individual. And you look at a lot of the department heads and we've asked them what their wish would be. And a lot of their wishes is to not have to exist.
Right.
So that's that idea of you want to lift people up and to be as self-sustaining as possible.
Yeah. There are lots of workshops offered through our financial management services. Some of them include, I'm not mentioning all of them, but some of them include the asset building, individual development account, housing coaching, including home buyer education, down payment assistance, budget coaching, money management. Also, one special project that I'd like to give a little bit of love to is the laundry project. And I think we mentioned it very briefly on the episode, I believe it is episode 3, where we talked with Allison. It's the laundry project. And if you're struggling to get your laundry washed or, maybe your washer breaks or your dryer and you need some free laundry service, you can head to TC Laundry and Eastfield Laundry during specific days and times each month. And you can find the dates and details on that at NMCAA.net. It's such a good project and it's really helpful for some of those people out there that need those services.
Again, that website, NMCAA.net, is such a wealth of resource and information.
Yes, there's so much on
there. I say it
there.
all the time. I know it gets boring, but there's so many wonderful tools there.
Yeah. Also, I want to make sure that we shout out as we are just now entering April. It is approaching tax day. NMCAA does still have free tax preparation going on now in locations near you. You can go to nmcaa.net to find out more or schedule an appointment. I know we have locations, I believe, through all 10 counties. If not, they're at least in the 3 main locations, Petoskey, Cadillac, and Traverse City. So check that out. Also,
and you don't have to wait last minute.
No.
You could do it earlier if
absolutely. You want. Yes, absolutely. Right. Don't be like me. Wait till last minute.
I'm not saying either of us in the room are guilty of that.
Actually, I've already got mine done this year. Knock, knock. Hey.
That's tremendous.
And I do just want to shout out that, we are always accepting donations at NMCAA. You can go again to nmcaa.net/donations.asp. You can donate to a specific program if one has your heartstrings, or you can just donate to our Greatest Need Fund, which will go to whomever is in need the most. You can also reach out to volunteer. Lots of our programs are always looking for volunteers. You could be a delivery driver for Meals on Wheels, or you could help do taxes or any of the other things that we have to offer. You can reach out at 231-947-3780 to connect. And And we will put the link for donations also in the show notes.
We typically like to wrap things up with a hard-hitting question, if you're a fan of the show, or if this is your first time. But as we've had many conversations off air, I kind of already know what your answer would be if I asked you the one wish situation.
Yeah, you probably do.
Yeah.
And if it is obvious, my one wish for this podcast would be to spread awareness about our programs that we offer and all the good things that NMCAA does in the community. Obviously, I would love to educate the public on what community action is and inform everyone on how we can help you or your neighbors. But before we go, Ryan, I think we need to share our big news.
That sounds great.
This podcast has gained a little bit of recognition at the state level regarding community action, and Ryan and I have been asked to speak at the Michigan Community Action Summer Conference. So thank you to all of you listeners who are listening, the collective, if we will. Thank you to all of the administration and leadership at NMCAA for, again, believing and trusting in us to allow us to do this. This is a really great honor. And while the Community Action Summer Conference is not a public event, if you are a community action employee in the state of Michigan and would like to meet either Ryan or I, we will be there, excited to talk about this podcast and excited to meet any of you.
This is a tremendous opportunity to connect more with people doing good. Obviously, that's something that's very, very close to my heart and my soul, but to be recognized in this way, to try to share what you've done is really cool. So I'm excited to be a part of that with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I was so happy that you said you would tag along.
Of course, of course. In a journey, road trip, further road trips with this show, I think that's a good thing. You get good stories that way.
Yeah.
While we continue to explore every aspect of NMCAA, we want to thank you again for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen to the two of us ramble on about how great NMCAA is. But, as the showbiz saying goes, without you, there would be no show. We truly do this for the people doing the work and also for the people that we know and hope are listening and getting inspiration from all this great work.
Yes, thank you so much. If you enjoy listening to this podcast and would like to become a sustaining donor with a recurring gift or contribute a one-time donation, please check out nmcaa.net/donations.asp and type Collective Us Podcast in the special instructions. If you're a business owner or would like to sponsor the Collective Us, please send us an email at collectiveus@nmcaa.net and put sponsor in the subject line, and I'll be happy to get you some sponsorship opportunities.
As always, don't forget we'd like to share your community stories regarding NMCAA. If you have a story you'd like to share about how NMCAA has impacted your life, please send us an email at collectiveuspodcast@nmcaa.net. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, please share this episode or the show link on social media. Follow the podcast to know when a new episode drops and rate the show. Truly helps us continue to get the word out on all the good NMCAA does in the community.
If you'd like to learn more about Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency or the programs we offer, or would like to make a donation, we encourage you to reach out at 231-947-3780 or visit our website, nmcaa.net. And to the collective today, we encourage you to continue to strive each day to do something to help yourself or your neighbors.